it's kind of nice to know that, you know, we are going for more human ways like counseling, because I do support that and agree with it. But it's also, I suppose, it makes me wonder about the conflict between parents' expectations and what teachers are on the ground are trying to do, right? Which now leads me into my last point, the future of teachers in Singapore. As much as probably MOE is updating the teacher training policies as well, and you mentioned that earlier on with reformulating how they teach and all. Do you think Singapore and our Singapore teachers are ready and are able to adapt to the future?
I think that all teachers in Singapore are facing a huge challenge in terms of being able to constantly adapt in order to prepare their children for a future that seems so alarmingly different in many respects from the teacher's own earlier lives, if you like.
Yes.
And of course you may say, how do you prepare students for a future that you don't even let me rephrase that. Okay. How do you prepare your students for a future whose exact nature isn't even clear yet? So if you don't even know what this uncertain future that we keep constantly being told is going to happen, if you don't know exactly what it's going to look like, then how exactly do you try and prepare your students better for that kind of future? So it has to be very challenging, I would say.
Yeah.
For example, one of the Ministry of Education's key areas of emphasis now, especially in the light of the COVID pandemic, is blended learning. In other words, using a mix of face-to-face classroom teaching and online learning.
Right.
Well, it sounds very sensible. Yes. Of course, the students are digital natives. Of course, there ought to be some degree of technology.
Yeah.
But of course, when you come down to the brass tacks of it, no one's really been able to establish exactly how much face-to-face teaching and learning can be done away with in favor of online teaching. How valuable is that interpersonal contact between teacher and students in order for meaningful learning to take place? And are all students out there equally well placed to take advantage of online learning?
Yeah.
Or do some students instead need much more teacher assistance and intervention?
I mean, Jeff was talking about this as well, because he's a digital. He started off as a digital artist.
I see.
Then he moved into teaching game design. So he was talking about how every year the curriculum has to change because there's a new software. There's a new method of using a previous software. There's something new happening. The games that the students are playing have changed. You know, new genres being created, whatever. But so that means as a teacher, he has to constantly change. I feel that, as you're saying, that how the future is so uncertain, I think that's also important to teach students the fact that future is uncertain, and that there should be a way to teach them how to be adaptable to what is going to happen next. No matter what happens, you have to be ready to take the next step. You cannot get rid of the physical classroom because no matter what, it's at the classroom where the students learn how to interact with other people.
Yeah.
If you move it to fully digital, they start seeing other people as robots. You know, I only see them once, for maybe 2 hours a day. I don't have any kind of interaction that is, of value. There's no emotional connection with anyone.
And let's not forget either that schools are about much more than classrooms.
Yes.
There's also the co-curricular activities, the whole school events, learning trips and excursions.
And recess.
And recess. And what happens during recess, right?
I feel like a lot of things that the school itself as a location helps to build. Like, so as you said, CCAs, co-curricular activities, they help to, teach new skills. Some of them even teach leadership. So that's important. And then there's other things like how they make friends. So
Yes.
that is to be, you can't teach a child how to learn, make friends. They have to go out, talk to other people, and learn for themselves what makes other people like them more, what are they willing to do to help others, and what is out of the question. That has to be something they learn themselves. You can't go around and preach what friendship should look like. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So, I mean, we're wrapping up now, but we'll go to you, Dharmik. What is one thing that you'd like to see teachers doing for the future based on your own experiences?
Honestly, I want more teachers to be down to earth with the students. Because I feel that it helps.
Interesting. So please expand.
Okay, so the thing about Jeff is that he is very straight to the face when it comes to things. So it's like, if he doesn't like something, he'll just say to your face, he doesn't like it. And that's important because it makes sure the student understands that you're willing to tell the truth and that you're more relatable. Because sometimes, teachers will be like, oh, if you try harder, you'll be fine. It's like, just say it's wrong, try again. We'll stop, And then you also have to find a way to relate to them first. You can't expect them to just come and listen to you because your job. You listen to me, full stop. Because, as you say, it's all about interpersonal relationships, right?
Yeah.
Only when the student looks up to you, will they want to listen to you.
Yes, that's true.
So it's about building up that mutual trust and respect.
Exactly.
Yeah. So what do you see, or how do you see the teaching profession changing?
Well, I see that, for one thing, schools will face increasing demands from the general public as well as from the government. Because what I see happening is that schools are being asked to take on more and more responsibilities in response to so many different things. For example, climate change, the Me Too movement, learning how to say no. And in addition, schools are constantly, I go down, sometimes unreasonably in my opinion, being held responsible for matters that perhaps are more in the domain of the home. So schools are increasingly being asked to shoulder more and more responsibilities in response to many kinds of change in the world out there. Because there's this belief that schools are key, I guess, agents of change, preparing students for their futures as adults. And is it always the case that the schools ought to assume so many different responsibilities? What about the teachers and their ability to take on so many extra tasks and roles? Because after all, teaching is fundamentally all about care. And as I said earlier, that brings with it the risk of burnout. If teachers try and take on too much and don't take adequate care instead of their own mental well-being.
Okay, now we're going to wrap up. I want to end with one final question. What is the most important quality in a teacher? Dharmik.
I will steal your guys' answers. So
no, you can't steal. You have to go first.
No
plagiarism is allowed here. I'm going to.
No, I know what your answers are going to be, so I need to be something different. But to me, I say it's the genuine love of teaching, because only when you enjoy, sharing your knowledge, being there to interact, because the love of teaching is technically the part where you're interacting with the student, right? I feel like that's the most important.
I would have to say it's very important for teachers to be excellent learners themselves. Because I guess if you, as a teacher, aren't able to exemplify for your students what you're trying to get them to do as learners, then you won't get very far, will you?
I would say that actually helps with the relatability of the teacher. When a teacher is able to admit their mistakes and learn with the student, I think the student also learns that I can be wrong and it's good to learn. It's always good to learn more.
Yeah. And also, the teacher can be wrong.
Yeah.
And the teacher can admit, a good teacher is a teacher that can admit they're wrong. Okay, that's my answer. Okay. I was searching, I was like, what am I going to say? Because I knew you were going to ask me. Huh? No, it's not plagiarism. It's a follow-up thought building on what you both were saying. Okay? Yes, I think a good quality is, when, the ever learner, the teacher that really enjoys teaching, is genuine about it, and a person that is human, that can admit they're wrong. Because a teacher in the classroom is not a god. Where I feel that we are facilitating a process for them.
I guess as a follow-up to Dharmhik, yes, I found from my own experience that very often students remember a teacher for little things that a teacher has said or done that in your own mind you never thought would matter all that much to your students. So, for example, I've had a few ex-students from way back when contact me out of the blue after a few decades to say, are you the one who taught me this and that? And then when I've replied to them and I've met with them, I always ask them the same question. After all these decades, what's prompted you to say hello to me? And it's always the same sort of answer, which is, do you remember that on this day or over several occasions you said this to me, or you were willing to talk to me about stuff that wasn't in the classroom curriculum? I just came to for example, one of them said, I just came to the teacher's room to chat to you unannounced about things that I was curious about in the world out there, but weren't part of the classroom curriculum. And you never said no, you never turned me away. And I remember that. So, of course, I never thought that it would mean so much to this young man.
Yeah.
Even many years later, wow, he still remembers that.
Yeah. Oh, thank you for sharing that. It's very touching. Thank you for your thoughts, sharing your thoughts with us today. Yeah, it's really warmed my heart, especially moving towards Teachers' Day and celebrating Teachers' Day. It really makes it all that more insightful and extra special, having this conversation. So yes, I'd like to wish all teachers out there a very, very happy Teachers' Day, and continue doing what you do. Now, if you've liked what we have shared with you, please, I encourage you to leave comments in the comment section. Also, if you like to share, subscribe to this channel, please do so. You can also hit the bell for notifications. We've also got our CityJo NFTs still up for sale. On that note, again, happy Teachers' Day, and we'll see you again in the next video.
Happy Teachers' Day.
Happy Teachers' Day.